Hi, my name is Amy Shaw. It is July 22nd, 2016, and I thought I'd bring you guys out here to the park. I'm just a little bit outside of Austin, Texas. It's about 104 out here, so it's sweltering. I had chemotherapy this morning, and I'm physically feeling really under the weather, so I had to actually take notes about what I want to talk about today. I'm going to read partially from those notes. I apologize for that, but it'll help me stay on track. And so rather than just sitting and seeing a talking head, sitting at a desk and reading, I thought we'd go on a little journey. So first I want to tell you a little about myself, and then you can decide if you want to keep watching or not. I have a master's degree in social science, actually in theoretical criminal justice. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was a Christian for about 20 years. I haven't been to church in over 10, and I don't really consider myself a Christian anymore, but when I was a Christian, I was an avid Bible studier, very much. I have an entire library still at home with Greek interlinears and Bible dictionaries and lexicons, the whole 9 yards. So I studied very diligently. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, and the reason I'm making this video, my motive today, is because I'm very excited, and if I don't show my enthusiasm as much as I really feel it, it's because I'm not feeling good. But I'm excited to talk about the quantum effect and the potential leap that we're about to all make together. So hang on and stick with me here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is throw a little bone out to the naysayers of the Mandela Effect. If you're kind of doubting what it is, you're skeptical, as I was at first. I don't really know what to think about this, but I just want to throw it out there, and then you can choose to go down this road or not. But in April 2016, I saw on the Instagram, Nat Geo's Instagram, that they had an article that they were running that I was really interested in. So I wanted to go pick up the paper copy of the magazine. So I went into the store, and there was 4 of these exactly like this on the shelf. And I thought, oh, this actually is really synchronous event in my life, because I have a connection with the snowy white owl. So I was really excited. That was really cool. But then I noticed when I got home that Nat Geo did something really cool. They said, with so many photo arc animals to choose from, we couldn't decide on one cover. So we made 10 for this month's issue. And they show you the 10 different covers that they made. Now follow me down this path just a little bit. Let's just say hypothetically that I called my daughter, I'm here in Austin, Texas. Let's say I call my daughter who's in the Los Angeles, California area, and I said, hey, the Nat Geo has a really amazing issue, you should go pick it up at the store. And she goes to buy it, and it has the peacock on the cover of it. And I say to her on the phone, you know, did you get the magazine? Isn't it awesome? Oh, snowy white owl, isn't that amazing? That's my animal. And she says, what are you talking about? Mine has a peacock on the front of it. And I say, what? How is that? How is that possible? Mine has an owl. All 4 of the ones I saw in the store had an owl on them. Hers has a peacock. So if Nat Geo hadn't actually told me that that's what they did, I would have had no way of knowing. And see, in my mind, my limited understanding, I could have possibly thought that that was the Mandela Effect, right? And so that's just something to consider. Packaging changes all the time, and you know, companies are always trying to market their stuff better. Sometimes they change their names because licensing changes. There's a whole different variety of reasons that we might not always be privy to. So there's always that possibility. This can explain some aspects of the phenomenon, and I won't go into the specific examples because they're all over YouTube. But I think this type of explanation breaks down at some very specific examples that we all are familiar with. This acknowledgement has been happening to me for a while now. For instance, the Berenstain Bears. When my kids were little, I had the whole entire series. I read them all to them. Really familiar. I can almost even tell you the titles of the books. So I know firsthand that it was Berenstain, and now it's become Berenstain. The other thing, Snow White, the same thing. I mean, you know, we could go back to the original Snow White, which I don't know, you could Google it, but it's probably on a reel somewhere because it's that old, like really from my mom's era, actually. But I first actually noticed both of these 2 Mandela effects about 3 years ago. And that's only because I have a granddaughter now, and we had taken her to Chick-fil-A one day. Ironically, Chick-fil-A, right? Because that's another Mandela Effect. But in their kids' meal, I believe it was, they had a miniature version of the Berenstain Bears book. And I noticed right away it said Berenstain on it. And I thought at the time, that's really weird. It didn't used to be that way. The same thing with Snow White. I grew up always knowing Snow White is mirror, mirror on the wall. And then when I watched Snow White with my granddaughter, it wasn't that. It was magic mirror on the wall. And I caught it right away. And this, again, was about 3 years ago. And I thought, that's weird. I don't remember it being like that. But see, these things are so inconsequential. They're really trivial. I mean, we notice them, but then we sort of like think, well, that's just weird, right? I mean, who's going to sit around and ponder it or try to investigate it? You just kind of let it go out of your mind, and doesn't seem so weird, you know. But now that so many people are saying this is really weird and it's happened to me too, it does make you sort of wonder what's happening. So this stuff seems really trivial to us. I think that there's larger implications that go far beyond the trivial changing of the spellings and the dates, the maps, and all this type of stuff. I mean, we're really getting into territory of reality. You know, understanding reality, how reality is created, how reality is changed or not changed. So that's why it's important to talk about this, and that everyone's making videos about it. So the quantum effect is sort of like deja vu, which psychologists and neuroscientists are still trying to explain away. It's been happening forever, but we haven't been able to notice it because consciousness wasn't ready. And we're caught up in this fast-paced world that is overburdening us with information. So what exactly is happening? Is this CERN? Is it quantum computers? Is it the shift in consciousness? Well, what do you guys think? I mean, I've kind of heard a whole plethora of ideas and theories and conspiracies, and I personally believe it's just part of our evolution as human beings. I think that there's always been a quantum effect, but we haven't been able to see it. And some of the reasons why I think we haven't been able to see it is because in industrialized culture, we've needed focused worker bees, okay? So we've been lied to about who we really are and about how much we can really do with our minds. So a really prime example of this is something called the placebo effect. Everybody's heard of it, right? The placebo effect. Well, basically the placebo effect, I'll just, briefly explain it in case you don't really know what that is that when medical researchers do pharmaceutical research, they set up two groups of people. One will get the actual drug and the other will get basically a sugar pill or a placebo. And they want to test the side effects and the efficacy of the drug that they're testing. But they don't tell the groups which one you're getting, so it's a blind study. That's the gold standard in clinical research, and so it's really common for them to do studies like that, the double-blind studies. Double-blind meaning sometimes the actual researchers themselves don't know which group is getting the real drug versus the placebo or the sugar pill. Well, as long as they've been studying medications, they've also found out or known about the placebo effect. And what that is when the entire group or several people within the group who actually got the sugar pill had the same medical benefit as the people who got the actual medication. So a long time ago, this got labeled the placebo effect. Unfortunately, it's kind of hidden under the rug. It's not something that the medical community has been very interested in studying. If anything, it's kind of been a thorn in their side. It's been that one thing that's annoying to them because they're trying to study how well the medicine works. They're not trying to study how people can heal themselves with their own minds. So the placebo effect is another example of quantum reality and the ways that we have been squelched in our true ability. It's sweltering hot out here. The sweat's just dripping off of me. So another thing that I want to share is not exactly the Mandela effect, because it really doesn't have to do with my memory of things and then them changing. It actually has to do with something a little bit more interesting to me. I've been keeping a checkbook for about 28 years now, and 28 years ago we didn't have the internet. So those of you that were around knew how it was back in the old school days, right? We paid for everything by credit card or check or money order. And we didn't have online banking, and so we had to keep like a checkbook ledger, and they kind of look like this. In case you're not familiar, you don't know what that is. It's a checkbook ledger. What you do is you write down like the check number, the date, description of the transaction, the amount, and you keep sort of this running tab of how much money you have in the bank. It's the only way that you can not be overdrawn, right? So I've been doing this for about 28 years, and even though everybody's like doing online banking now and nobody keeps a checkbook, nobody even writes checks anymore, I still keep a ledger. I don't really hardly write checks anymore either, but I still keep a ledger because I'm just used to doing it, and it's the only way I know how much money I actually have in my account. So for 28 years I've been doing this. When I first started doing it, I started noticing that when the bank statements would come, and I would come along and check, you know, this check cleared, that check cleared, this check cleared, and then what the balance that they said I had, you know, and I would go through and do the math and make sure my checkbook balanced. Well, I started noticing right away, right after I opened my first checking account, that the checkbook didn't balance. It wasn't balancing. And so initially, the first 5 or so years of this, I was always in the negative. Like I had less money, apparently, than the bank said I had. The bank said, you know, you have this much, and I said I had more than what the bank was saying that I had. So I was negative. So I would go back through and meticulously try to find the error, and I couldn't find it. Now sometimes I did find the error. There were times where I found the error. It was obvious I failed to write something down, and oh look, there's that check, I didn't write it down, or there was a little error in my math, and in those instances, you know, again, you just adjust your checkbook. But there was a lot of times when I couldn't find the error, and I would obsessively go back through my math again and again. I just couldn't find the error. So what do? You just adjust your checkbook, you know? Well, after time, 5 years of this, I started wondering what the hell is going on. And the numbers started feeling familiar to me, you know, like $12.85. I've had that one come up over the last 28 years, probably a dozen times. And you start to think like, okay, I see a pattern, but what is happening? Is it $12.85 error somewhere that just is cycling? It's not catching up, and I'm not catching it. It happened way back when, and I just didn't catch it. Is that, which doesn't actually make any logical sense, because every time you adjust your checkbook balance to the bank balance, it should come out and you start over again. But you're trying to make logic out of it, and that's the only logic I can make out of it. About 5 years into this, it started to turn around slowly, and it became positive that actually the bank said I had more money than what I said I had in my checkbook. So who's going to complain about that? I was happy about that. That's awesome. It's amazing. But again, the numbers started being the same, and I just couldn't account for it. Well, at about 15 years in, you know, I was real solid Christian at the time, and just living my life for the Lord, and totally had faith, and you know, I just started thinking, man, this is just God. This is God, like, just blessing me with money and fusing it into my account in some sort of miraculous way, right? And who's going to question that? I just said, thanks, God. But then time kept going on, and the amount that I was off was getting bigger and bigger. And the numbers, again, it kept bothering me. I kept thinking, man, there's something to this, because this $12.85 and this $7.91, and you know, these certain numbers just kept coming up. So in 2014, I was not a Christian anymore, really. Not that I've lost faith, I just don't go to church and don't believe in religion. I said, you know, what if these numbers actually are trying to tell me something? And what if I'm crazy? What if I think I'm remembering there's a pattern here, but there's really not? So the only way to really know is to actually just start writing that down. So in May 2014, May 12th, 2014, I made my very first entry of writing down this phenomenon. And I put in pin on the top of the page the God message, because I wanted to track it better and to see specifically if there was a pattern. Well, the other thing I want to say is that over the last 28 years, I've obviously opened and closed checking accounts numerous times. And so I've virtually started over from scratch at least half a dozen times, if not more. And there's been periods of time where I've managed 3 checkbooks, 2 personal checkbooks, a business checkbook, and this phenomena happened in all of my accounts across all the years. So I can't just say that it was a human error. It just can't be a human error. When you start a new checking account, you start from scratch, and the thing of it is that this doesn't happen every single time. We usually would get paid twice a month, the 1st and the 15th, so those were our pay periods, the 1st and the 15th, and I balanced the checkbook around the 1st, and I balanced the checkbook around the 15th, just to make sure, I'm starting off writing out the bills, being in a good spot with it. And, I just want to share with you from May 12th, 2014 to the end of 2014, I have 7 instances out of 26 times that I balanced my checkbook, not counting that I wasn't writing it down before May, where I could not account for the error in my checkbook. It was just money that appeared or disappeared magically. And 2 of those instances, it was negative, less than $1. The total for the amount of 2014 that I wrote down was exactly $42.24 that I was in the positive for the year. So I kept going because I'm not seeing a pattern yet, except there's my 1285, my first entry. But so I go to 2015 and I have 8 instances of having money in my account that I can't find the error for. And all 8 this time are positive, meaning that the bank is saying I have more money than I have. So money is magically appearing in my account. And that total was, for the total year of 2015, $99.53 in my favor. In 2016, I've so far had 8 instances. So this phenomenon is increasing, because keep in mind I'm still on a twice a month schedule, so 26 times a year about, more or less, I balance my checkbook. And I'm already at 8 times this year that I have been in the positive, and I can't account for the error. So far, this amount is already $287.27. This is money that's just magically appearing in the bank statement saying this is my balance, and me trying to balance the checkbook and saying it's not adding up. Why are they showing that I have way more money than I have? And me not finding an error, and believe me, I go back through it 2 or 3 times. I drive myself crazy pulling my hair out. And again, over the years, of course, I have found errors. These are not what I'm talking about. I don't write those down, the errors that I actually find and correct. I don't write those down. These are the errors that I can't account for. And so that's my little contribution to the Mandela Effect, is the God message. So basically all these things, the placebo effect, the Mandela effect, the God effect, the synchronicities that we're starting to experience and become aware of now, they all sort of remind us of all the ways that we've actually been programmed in our culture, in every culture actually around the world. There's a certain amount of programming, a lot of programming actually, that occurs. And so you might be wondering, well, how is this accomplished? Is this some sort of like conspiracy theory of psyops, or hypnotic suggestion through the TV? Well, those might all be ways. I don't really know. I tend to gravitate towards conspiracy theories only in that I'm the type of person that questions everything. And when you question everything, it sort of opens up your mind to possibilities that you wouldn't think about if you weren't questioning. But I'm not really here to talk about all the different conspiracy theories of how that happens. I can really say, though, from a social science background and understanding, that all children are born knowing, but through play, that knowing is sort of squelched, okay? An example of this is that my granddaughter, she's 4 now, but last year when she was 3, she had this whole entire imagination in her mind that she had a brother and sister in a different life, and that her mom was named Blanco, and she was insistent on this. Very interesting. And I give my daughter-in-law a lot of credit because she really did try to honor her daughter in that, to not squelch that down. But the truth of it is, we've all been over-culturated. And kids are very, very sensitive. So if you're not directly saying, oh, that's imagination, don't think that, if you're not directly doing that, you're indirectly doing it, in essence, by even just that little quiver in your voice that conveys a sense of uneasiness or discomfort or fear about it. And children pick that up, and they learn that, oh, that's not safe. That kind of talk is not safe. That kind of thinking is not safe. And this pattern sort of just emerges. And over time, they eventually sort of lose that ability or forget that they have the ability. So over time, we've all, in essence, lost the remembering of our abilities. But this still exists in indigenous cultures. And this is an important thing that we need to remember, is that all these different things that we're calling, quantum shifting and, CERN's messing with us. No, actually, this has been happening forever, and it's happening still in indigenous cultures. They aren't going to feel the shifts in the same ways that they'll feel it because we are all one on the planet, but they're not going to feel it in the ways that we feel it because they already are living like this, okay? Indigenous cultures are shamanic cultures, and so shamans are said to be the ones that dream the world into being. Now, this isn't because shamans are like God in the Christian sense, like they create the world. It's not that. That's a misunderstanding, and it's a misunderstanding that's been perpetuated by religious systems. What it really is it's a reflection of quantum reality. Shamans are the experts at maneuvering through quantum reality. They're the experts at reading the signs. So what we're experiencing, this Mandela Effect, this waking up, this realizing that we're more than what we've been told that we are, is just part of our evolution, and it's part of our consciousness expanding out of the industrial culture. It's important to keep in mind that we created these religious systems. We created the scientific method. We created this top-heavy, industrialized overculture. And now, into the post-industrial era, we have realized our errors. So now we've outgrown it. We've outgrown it and realized that we are more than this, and if we don't become more than this or become what we were, remember what we were, that we're going to topple it all down on top of us. So collectively, we're waking up, but one by one. And now our task is to create a new reality. So some of us are shamans. That is, we're some of the earlier people to have woken up to this. We've been sort of tracking parallel realities for a while in dream time and journey time and in non-ordinary, non-local mind. And so our job really at this point in time is to kind of help guide the way for the people that are coming along and waking up now. So anyways, yes, for my Christian brothers and sisters, yes, there's changes in the Bible. I've had the same Bibles for over 20 years, and I've pulled them off the shelves, and I have confirmed that my Bible does not say the same thing that it did 20 years ago. So this is real, this Mandela Effect and how it is affecting the Bible. Those who don't see this are clinging to their ideologies at the expense of their evolution. They will probably say that this is the Great Deception, and call this the end times. We all know what the Great Deception means. They will probably say that the brothers and sisters who are believing and seeing the Mandela Effect are falling away, and they'll use this as evidence of how few of them are left, the people who do not believe in the Mandela Effect, that are saying it's a lie. They're going to look around and see how few of them are left, and they're going to justify this, right, as because they're the ones on the narrow path. But keep in mind that this might change as well as more people get on board with this and decide that it is so. They decide to change these aspects of the Bible that say these things. So, you know, as our reality changes, you know, it's interesting to see what's going to come of this. What these people don't understand that are clinging to their ideology is that we're moving into a reality that is not linear. And it doesn't have to be a duality of absolute truth. It's not that the Bible is false or has been false. Jesus is who he really says he is, just as you are who you say you are. Jesus lived and was fully aware of quantum reality. But some of what has been taught about Jesus, about the Bible, especially the dogma, has been false. And this is being stripped away so that we can see more clearly. It is the religion and its dogma, its theological study at the expense of faith that has led you down the sleepy path of denial. You could say Christ is manifesting in us all in a way that can be akin to the second coming, or what some people are calling the rise of the Christ consciousness. Waking up to a quantum reality does not have to undermine your faith. Actually, it can enhance it. In quantum reality, we can move mountains. Do you understand? Do you understand this? So this is exciting news because it opens up discussion about where reality occurs and how it's created. Again, we're taught it's everything tangible that we can see that can be quantified. When it can't be, we call it faith. We're also taught that everything occurs in a linear procession of time, but time is always now. So when you go back in time, you literally are going back in time, experiencing it as now. And even altering that experience in some ways, adding to it and taking away from it. Another example of the reality of this is in dreaming. We're taught that dreams are just dreams and they aren't real. Yet when they hook up our bodies and measure the responses that our bodies are making, our bodies are responding as if the dream is actually happening. The only thing that actually prevents us from acting out our dreams are neurochemicals in our body that paralyze our muscles. If we didn't have this chemical, and some people do actually have a disorder where they're lacking this chemical, they do literally act out their dream as if it is happening to them in real time in a waking, ordinary reality. So you can't really convince the brain that at that moment that dream's occurring, that it's not real. In that moment, and the only moment we have is the now moment, that is reality. Some people lucid dream. They know that they are in a dream time. Those people are able often to maneuver, to manipulate, and to change reality. This is what shamanism is based on, the practice of shape-shifting, the changing of reality, and it is practiced enough that they can seamlessly merge the two so that there's no distinction between reality of dream time and reality of waking time. So let's take a quantum trip. Let's imagine into the movie Interstellar. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, stop. In the movie, Cooper transcends the third dimension through space travel, and traveling into a black hole, finds himself in a tesseract, representing the hologram of his daughter's bedroom. He's trying to tell his past self to not take the trip to space, that it's a mistake. He accomplishes this by pushing books out of his daughter's bookshelf, from behind the bookshelf. She understands this is a phenomena, something to be studied, a message for her. But he mocks her, the Cooper in present ordinary reality, who's seeing this phenomena of himself on the other side, in the other dimension, through the tesseract pushing the books. He mocks her and he calls it her ghost. What if this Mandela effect, to some extent, is what we have created for ourselves to wake us up from the slumber imposed by industrial society? I definitely relate to the movie Interstellar being like my own God effect, where people, myself included, would either look at it like it is a ghost of the supernatural realm, when it is in fact like a tesseract. My experience of it has been like the boundaries, the texture that reminded me of this tesseract, with the numbers consistently coming up, being like the walls of a tesseract. So was it me all along, this God effect that I'm experiencing, sending this coded message to wake myself up? The most important thing to understand is there is no way to prove this. Our logical, reductionistic, materialistic training will have us searching for answers similar to the one I first presented to you with the Nat Geo magazine, but this will defy the logic of the system that we currently have. People who are afraid will cling to their old ideologies and systems, and there will be doubters. But once you are awake and you see, you cannot unsee, no matter how hard you try. This is intentional. So you have to move forward, trusting yourself as the one who defines the reality. Look to yourself, trust yourself. Our ways of knowing will change, moving into a much more experiential knowing and away from the external book way of knowing. This is what we have to get back to, a way of knowing that is centered in the body, that inner knowing. That knowing that you are a divine being, a co-creator. As you navigate through this, take copious field notes. This is where your training in the scientific method becomes handy, allowing you to observe and make note of the various experiences and the inner landscapes and how they have effect on your output, what you manifest in the material sense. This is how you develop your own map legend, if you will. Pay attention to signs like you have never paid attention before, so that you learn to read them. Don't discount your experience by saying, "This is all in my imagination," or "This isn't real." In quantum reality, everything is real, because you created it, and the only moment of reality that truly exists is the moment of now. Develop your own litmus test. This way you can become your own authority, and when people try to feed you ideas that seem confusing, you have that absolute way of knowing, because things externally are going to shift very rapidly. So to my Christian brothers and sisters, hang tight. Really search your inner knowing as to what the truth with a capital T is here. The division has already become apparent with people in the church, and it will continue to grow. But also understand much of what you've been taught to believe is cultural, and that will be stripping away as well. To my New Age friends, we've been waiting for this. Hooray! To my shaman friends, are you ready? People are going to be calling on you to teach them to be map readers, to dream and journey alongside them, to guide them and encourage them forward. It's time to step up to the plate. To my psychotherapist and psychiatrist friends, this is not mass hysteria. This isn't mass delusion. It will be hard for you to abandon your system, and even harder to help in tearing it down. Because you have spent your entire career as you know it defining yourself by this. If it weren't for the adventurous possibilities lulling you forward, you may easily fall into existential despair. Perhaps for now, see this as an expansion of your practices and allow your mind to open as you embrace the new reality, while you piece by piece deconstruct the old one. To my conspiracy theory friends, please know that this isn't a conspiracy in the classical sense, and I think that you know this. You feel that it's different. I don't know if CERN plays any part. I suspect not. But if it does, know that we, collectively, have manifested CERN to perform such a role for a purpose. We aren't powerless victims in this at all. A little while ago, earlier today, I learned that there was another mass shooting in Munich. I don't know the motive, but my husband said to me that this is never going to stop because we can't change ideology. Yes, we can, I told him. How? He asked me. The Mandela Effect. So one last thing, I want to give some plugs to some people and resources that have helped me tremendously. First and foremost, I recommend any and all of Paul Selig's works. They will provide a context for what is happening and keep it within a framework of faith and the divine nature of each one of us. In this way, what he channels comes from a dimension higher than the ones that we're experiencing now. Robert Moss also has a plethora of written works, websites, courses, and whatnot to encourage a system and practice in navigating this new way of understanding. I am personally on my 3rd dream course with Robert, and am currently dreaming with my fellow dreamers through his quantum dreaming class, which I have been taking since April. He is very grounded into the how-to of navigating this, and this book right here in particular, Playing with Signs, Symbols, and Synchronicity in Everyday Life, kind of opens us up to things beyond the Mandela Effect and what to look for or how to navigate through that. And finally, a resource I just stumbled onto yesterday is Cynthia Sue Larson. That's Cynthia with a C, C-Y-N-T-H-I-A, Sue Larson. She is vlogging on YouTube under the channel of My Mandela Effect Life. She seems to be offering a wealth of experience and understanding, and brings a voice of balance, bridging the gap by using language that is familiar and comforting while inviting us out into the quantum field. She also has a website, realityshifters.com, which I plan to thoroughly explore, and I hope that you do too. Just remember to keep an open mind and question everything.